Hello and welcome to my presentation titled Unjustly Targeted and Criminally Charged: How and Why Low-Income Communities Are Being Marginalized and Oppressed. So, before I get further into my topic, let me begin with an introduction of myself. My name is Augustus Muse. I'm a Civic Action Fellowship alumni and a Business Administration major at Dominican University of California. I'm currently concentrating on management and dual minoring in global innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as community action and social change. And through my schooling, I've had opportunities to help out the low-income and homeless community of San Rafael through many means. For example, I've had the opportunity to volunteer through AmeriCorps at the Ritter Center. I've participated in multiple health hub days at the Marin Community Center. I was interning at the Health and Human Services Department of Marin, and I'm currently interning at the Marin County Public Defender's Office. And all of these experiences that I've been through, thanks to my schooling, have taught me a lot, and they've prepared me to teach others about the injustices and inequalities in my local community. All right, and with that introduction out of the way, let's talk less about me and talk more about the social justice issues I'm focusing on. So, here's the what of my presentation. Low-income communities are disproportionately subjected to vehicle-related tickets and other traffic law violations. These communities are targeted for traffic stops and ticketing fines, which frequently results in warrants being issued and individuals being arrested and incarcerated because they couldn't afford to pay off their fines. A tricky thing to take note of is that the punishment for not being able to pay off a fine is actually just another, much larger fine, which seems to be quite a redundant punishment for someone who can't afford to pay. As you may be able to predict, this results in a snowball effect where minor infractions ultimately lead to serious legal problems for people who don't have any resources to deal with them. That likely has had a direct connection as to why nearly a fifth of all misdemeanor arrests in California are related to traffic offenses. And to further prove that these communities are being targeted, the Department of Justice released data that tells us that in Chicago, traffic tickets are issued 40% more frequently to drivers from minority communities and low-income zip codes. Those drivers are also more likely to have their driver's licenses suspended for failure to pay than any other group of ticket recipients, and they're twice as likely to file for bankruptcy. One of the main reasons that these communities are targeted is because police departments have quotas to reach. One of the main revenue sources for most police departments is through tickets and fees. For the Chicago Police Department, tickets and fees make up 7% of their total revenue, which is a pretty high number. But for the Ferguson Police Department, tickets and fees make up 23% of their revenue, nearly a quarter of all of the money that they make as a department. Let's go into a bit more detail on the Ferguson Police Department. Thanks to a report conducted by the Department of Justice, the public now has access to data that teaches a lot about the shady, behind-the-scenes activity that happens at the Ferguson Police Department. This report exposes a lot of wrongdoing and ill intent, all of which can be reflected back onto the department's main focus of generating revenue. According to the report, the city of Ferguson's focus on revenue generation has a profound effect on the way the FPD operates. Officer promotions are dependent on an officer's degree of productivity, meaning that they're based on the number of citations the officer has issued. Officer patrol assignments, groups of police officers, are geared towards aggressive enforcement of the Ferguson Municipal Code, prioritizing efficiency of distributing tickets and fines over the principles of public safety and community trust and cooperation. Officers in Ferguson are known to frequently expect and demand compliance by citizens even when they lack the proper legal authority, and they're known to interpret the exercise of freedom of speech as unlawful disobedience, innocent movements as physical threats, and indications of mental illness as belligerence. The race to arrest or race to issue a ticket culture of the Ferguson Police Department and other departments like it leads to a disproportionate amount of ticketing and fines being given out to low-income communities, and sometimes, quite frequently actually, it leads to citizens' rights being completely violated. Additionally, the focus on revenue generation has fundamentally compromised the role of Ferguson's municipal court. The report states that the municipal court does not act as a neutral arbiter of the law or a check on unlawful police conduct. Instead, the court's primary use is to exert judicial authority to compel the payment of fines and fees that advance the city's financial interests. The court regularly violates the 14th Amendment's due process and equal protection requirements, and frequently imposes unnecessary harm, primarily on African American individuals, which counters the concept of ensuring public safety. In 2013 alone, the Ferguson court issued over 9,000 warrants on cases that stem just from minor violations such as parking infractions and traffic tickets. Because these are only minor violations, jail time might seem like a far too harsh punishment, yet Ferguson's municipal court routinely issues warrants of arrest for people who fail to pay their fines and fees on time. People who fail to pay their fees get their license suspended, and that suspension stays permanently until all of the fines are paid off in full. Ferguson also had charges, fines, and fees for each missed payment, which, as I stated before, is quite a redundant punishment for people that cannot afford to pay off the original ticket. Those fines just bury them deeper in the hole, when what they really need is someone to toss them a rope so they can climb out of it. The report by the Department of Justice also provides plenty of real, specific, anecdotal pieces of evidence against the city of Ferguson's revenue generation tactics. For example, in 2007, there was an African American woman who was issued 2 citations and a singular $151 fine, plus fees, for parking her car illegally once. The woman, who was going through a period of homelessness and was experiencing serious financial difficulties, was charged with 7 failure to appear offenses for missing her court appointments and fine payments on those parking tickets. The court issued arrest warrants and imposed extra fines and fees, effectively blocking the woman from being able to pay off her dues. From 2007 to 2014, that's 7 years, the woman was arrested twice, spent 6 days in jail, and paid $550 of the court's fees. As of December 2014, over 7 years later, after already having paid $550, she still owes $541 on the original $151 fine. 7 years later, she still owes $541 on a $151 fine, of which she's already paid off $541. That doesn't make much sense. It's very illogical. Homeless people and low-income people that aren't in the position to pay for these fees should not be subjected to them because it's life-ruining. And the story of the woman who was issued a citation for illegally parking that ended up still paying for it almost a decade later is certainly tragic and terrifying, but don't get it mixed up with a fictional horror story. It is very real. This sort of situation happens all the time, every day. Even right now, it's very likely that someone is being issued a ticket that they'll still be paying off a decade later. That person could even be you. So this isn't just a problem that affects random people that you'll never meet. It affects your community, and one day it may even affect you. So, now what? What is being done to address this problem? Well, currently, it seems that there is no absolute solution. That would require a complete reconstruction of our criminal justice system, and there's no guarantee as to how well that would work. Instead, what can be done, and what is being done, is the establishment of a service that assists with dismissing convictions and clearing criminal records. That is the exact purpose of the Clean Slate program, to help people clean up their criminal records. The Clean Slate program is a brand new service that results from the collaboration of the Marin County Public Defender's Office, the District Attorney's Office, Marin County's Probation Office, and the Marin County Health and Human Services Department. It's a brand new program. The legislation for it was just passed in 2018, and it became open to the public for the first time in February of this year, 2022. The expungement process doesn't apply to violent criminal charges, such as ones related to domestic violence, child abuse, or elder abuse. The intention is to only expunge criminal records that are in the interest of justice. I've personally had the privilege of working at both the HHS, the Health and Human Services Department, and the PD, the Public Defender's Office, where I got to see firsthand the impact that the Clean Slate program can have on people's lives. At the HHS, I worked alongside fellow employees to help connect clients with resources related to the Clean Slate program, as well as other resources and government services that could really be life-changing for them, such as Medi-Cal, CalFresh, and their social stimulus. I spoke to dozens of clients who were all trying to better their own life situation, and I was able to have an impact on their lives. At the public defender's office, I had the privilege of working alongside the venerated public defender of Marin County, David Sutton. And from what I learned there, the defender's office is usually hectic and chaotic. There always seems to be a dozen things going on at once. I got to shadow the driver's license liaison, Karen, as she guided clients through the massive packets that are required to be filled out when they receive a charge that suspends their driver's license. Without her help, most of these clients would not have the slightest clue as to where to start, and they would all likely become stuck in the vicious cycle of perpetually growing fees that are near impossible to get out of. And finally, here's my sources cited page, and I hope you all really thoroughly enjoyed this discussion about the social justice issue of communities being targeted for ticketing and other vehicle-related fees. All right, thank you very much for watching.